Hi, everybody. I'm glad to have you guys here to talk a little bit about mindfulness. Like I was shared before, I'm the clinical director here at the Ohio Physicians Health Program, and we do services to help physicians with mental health and addiction issues. And one of the things we're trying to do is also extend out for prevention and wellness kind of stuff. And this is a good opportunity for that to kind of talk a little bit about mindfulness, because mindfulness is something that we can all take on and utilize in our lives, even for longer periods of time, or even in momentary moments where we can kind of learn little quick tools to kind of stop the chaos, the anxiety, the frustration, the feelings of overwhelming us, and to just relax. So I'm going to share some slides with you, kind of go along, kind of do some definitions of mindfulness. I'm going to do a little bit of like the benefits of mindfulness, how to get started, kind of looking both kind of what a long-term mindfulness practice would be, and also kind of talking about and participating in some short-term mindfulness skills and tools. And so part of this presentation is going to actually have you do some stuff with me, do some mindful activities. And so I think the first thing I'm going to do is probably start off with one, just so we can all kind of maybe relax a little bit as we try to take on this new adventure via the computer and this meeting stuff. So it's going to just be a breathing exercise that I'm going to kind of present to you guys. Hopefully I'm going to pull up the slides. Are you guys seeing the slides? Because I'm not seeing it. Yes, good, good. So let me click it along. So there's my information. So this first mindful activity we'll do is just some mindful breathing. I hope everybody's in an opportunity to kind of close the doors and just be quiet for a few minutes. What I really like to be able to do is just take about 2 minutes for us to be able to sit back, get in a kind of a comfortable upright position where we can kind of get our lungs open, and just do some deep breathing, just to try to slow the body down, slow the mind down a little bit. We kind of try to do it in 6-second intervals where we do a deep breath in, through the mouth, and exhale through the nose. Just an opportunity just for us to slow down, get some oxygen, get that blood circulating, calm our bodies down. I'm going to set a timer for 2 minutes, and I just want everybody just try to push everything out. It's going to be hard because there's going to be other things probably going on. You'll hear knocks, you'll hear noise, you'll hear whatever. Try to just focus on your breathing, concentrating on the in and the out. Like I said, try to do it in 6-second intervals. So I'm going to get my phone ready and get the timer going, and we're just going to start right now. Okay. I hope everybody was able to take the time and do that. What we're going to do at the end of the the presentations, we'll take time and talk about what was that like to kind of just slow down for a little bit and just be in the moment. I can tell you that was helpful for me because I have a little bit of anxiety about starting this presentation off, and it was helpful for me to kind of just calm down right in the midst of it and say, okay, here we go, let's see what happens, and kind of let some of that, I don't know if the right word for is fear, because that's where anxiety is based from, and let some of that go. So I'm going to share the next slide and just talk about what is mindfulness. As you can see, there's a couple definitions. Mindfulness is the quality of state of being conscious or aware of something. It's the mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment while commonly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations. I think that's the really important part about it is not only are we trying to be in the present, but also to be able to relax and be calm in the present and let our body, relax, be okay, remove kind of some of the, antsiness that we kind of get from everything we have to do when we're so busy with our day-to-day lives. It's also the practice of purposely focusing attention on the moment and accepting it without judgment. And I think that's really a key piece to this part when we talk about mindfulness, is trying to remove judgment from things. We're going to do a couple exercises or be introduced to a couple exercises that will ask you to kind of, think about things or look at things. And the goal of it will be to look at it without putting a label on it. And I think that's hard because we're so used to being around our perceptions, what they do, how they function for us. Is to try to look at something in a new light without any of those preconceived notions. One of the problems when we bring a positive or negative judgment to something is that it already taints how we view it and its purpose for us in the world. And part of this mindfulness is to just remove that and just be with it. Mindfulness has its roots in meditation, in Buddhism, and in their practice of meditation. But most religions have some sort of mindful practice, be it prayer, even individually or with a group, or, when you're like for a church or something like that. The idea is just to be able to be present and be with, yourself, self-awareness, and some people, in a religious sense, even bring into some kind of concept of a higher power with them. The benefits of mindfulness are pretty easy to figure out. I can tell you just in a couple minutes of just deep breathing, I could already feel stress levels and anxiety levels reducing. So one of the things it does is reduces stress. It just calms the body down. It stops the chaos. When we keep moving, we get that elevated heart rate and our blood pressure goes up. One of the things to do is to be able to step back and calm it down, because if we keep pushing ourselves like that, that's when we start making usually more mistakes or getting more agitated about things. So it helps reduce some of that stress. It helps lower blood pressure and treats heart disease. Obviously, it can help also with chronic pain. All of us know if we work with patients that suffer with pain issues, that pain is physical, but it's also mental. And part of what we try to do when we help people is to kind of be able to relax themselves and become more aware and more in touch with their body and calm their brain. Because one of the things when we experience physical pain is it creates more chaos and stress in our mental state, and we get more agitated, more frustrated, more angry. And the idea is to calm that mental part down, and then in hopes in return it will calm the physical thing. Obviously, it's not a cure for pain, but it obviously can help manage it or get in touch with what really is the pain that I'm experiencing. Because sometimes, and many of you probably have experienced it, people may rate their pains higher than it may necessarily be. And part of that is that pain is real, but where it's coming from, and where is that perception of it coming from, is experiencing it so high when it doesn't seem like it should be that high. And I would say part of that's because of the mental exhaustion and anguish they're feeling along with the physical pain. Improve sleep. I think that's it's kind of obvious. If you can slow your body down, calm you down. I know that's a challenge for me when I try to go to sleep, is I can get racing thoughts when I lay down in the bed, and doing some mindful activities to calm myself can help my body relax to fall into sleep. Helps with gastrointestinal difficulties. Obviously, anxiety is a big trigger and cause for some of the GI problems we experience. So if you can reduce some of that anxiety, then the GI stuff can hopefully improve. And of course, it works really well with mental health disorders like depression, anxiety, addiction, eating disorders, OCD. The goal of that is to really help people with mental health disorders, much like physical pain. There's a biological component going on too, but that biological component is being also magnified by the psychological component of their illnesses they're experiencing. So one of the things we can do to help with the biological components is help treat the psychological and reduce some of that, depression, if it's the sadness or the getting stuck in the regret or the anxiety and the projection and fear of the future. It's to help them kind of calm down and get into the present and slow things down and just be, where am I at? What can I do now? What would be the next best choice for me, instead of getting lost into the fears or regrets that they experience usually with those kind of illnesses. It's also helpful a lot with addiction. If anybody's ever had experience or knows some AA philosophy, they're always day at a time kind of stuff. We take it all day at a time, sober today. And I think that's part of a mindful philosophy they have there is, here's what I'm have to get through right now. This is what I'm dealing with, and not letting cravings and urges overwhelm. So mindfulness can be practiced in a lot of different ways when it comes to mental health issues. And of course, it can help people in couples conflicts, right? If you can practice some mindful, especially short-term mindfulness meditation skills with a partner when you get into getting angry or getting upset about something, can step aside and calm down so you can refocus and come back to actually coming to a solution to a problem, instead of getting angsty and angry and letting it come back and getting worse and worse. So we'll do another exercise. This one may be a little bit more difficult. I'm hoping everybody will be able to find something in their viewing area to look at, but it's going to be a mindful observation. Again, this is going to be something we'll talk about later at the end when we do a discussion, just kind of how was that experience like for you to take the time to focus on something and appreciate it from a non-judgmental view, just kind of like appreciate its function. Ideally, if we could find something to focus on nature, if you have a window or anything to look at or a plant or something like that, that would be great. If you don't, in your space, that you just kind of seem one to pay more attention to look at, to ask questions about in your head, to just focus on for a little bit, to kind of say, what is this? What's the purpose this has for me? And just kind of concentrate it on just for a minute, just to kind of like not worry about everything else that's going on around you. Just kind of appreciate your focus on some sort of hopefully a natural thing, like a plant or a tree or something like that, an animal, if not something that you use in maybe daily in your office, and kind of appreciate it in a different way. So I'm going to set just a timer real quick. I got the phone, got to get that set. And just going to do a minute. So hopefully while I was talking, you picked something out you can just focus on. And I'm going to set the timer. I'm going to start. And just what I want you to do is just explore the object. Just look at it. Just appreciate it, look at it, say, what is this? And be curious about the questions. Ask yourself things you may not have asked yourself about, whatever it is that you're looking about, and just explore that for a minute. So here we go. Okay. So that was just a minute. I don't know what everybody had the opportunity to explore in their office. I will share with you because I'm in a closed box, so I don't have a view of the outside. I saw a picture of my daughter when she was in kindergarten, and I just kind of explore that photo, not just about her, but also the photo and things within that photo. And it's interesting. So hopefully everybody had something that we can kind of conversate about, kind of what it meant to actually spend some time just looking at something maybe in a different light or a different view. Kind of moving on with the mindfulness stuff. You're going to talk about just tools that you can use to get started kind of on a long-term practice if you're looking to get into mindfulness and as a more kind of a daily routine in a more complex way. You'd want to find a quiet place to start this. I mean, most people can find maybe a spot in their home, but somewhere that's quiet and secluded that kind of is free of distraction from outside noise. It's important to get comfortable. I think most people kind of have an idea, is meditative, or they're sitting, they're squatting on the floor, kind of doing, and that can definitely be a way to do it. But even if you're kind of just being in a sitting position, just somewhere where you can kind of relax, let your body relax, and just be calm. Let your body, without having to feel like, where it doesn't get uncomfortable, where you always having that distracts you from being able to be present to whatever you're going to focus on and meditate on. You got to set a schedule for this. I think one of the hard parts about this is if you really want to do more of a long-term practice of mindfulness, you got to set a schedule. You got to put it in there. You got to make time. It's usually best if you're doing it at the same time. If it's in the morning before you start the day off. I think most people will tell you that if they do some sort of meditative thing before they start into the chaos of breakfast, getting the kids ready, doing all those things become a lot less challenging. If they take that kind of self-wellness time. And typically they say if you want to get the full effect of it, it takes about 20 minutes a time to kind of let your brain fully get to that place where it's clear. Now, that's tough to find that time. I think the idea is to start making the efforts. If you start off with 5 minutes, you start off with 10 minutes, you can move it from there, or maybe you find a time that just works for you that's already creating improvement in your life. I think the important part is creating the time, creating the practice, and giving yourself some space, no matter what that time frame is, to just practice this. I think it's important to have some guidance in doing this. There's a lot of free apps that are available. There's one I use. It's called Headspace. They kind of walk you through and talk you through things. Some of it is just about talking through to you about getting into a calm position and just kind of relaxing and focusing. Some of it does some guided imagery work where it kind of talks about things to focus on, and you can kind of your brain drift with that, or even talk about deep breathing exercises or focusing on your body and paying attention to like certain parts of your limbs and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of go about mindfulness. I'm going to talk just briefly about some other quick mindfulness activities and exercises. I want to make sure we have time at the end to give you space to discuss. So I got about 6 or so exercises I'm just going to briefly talk about and let you kind of just contemplate them. The stuff you can do. It's all quick practices. These are all things you can do. Take a minute or two of your time throughout the day. They can let you restart your focus, especially when we get at work. You dealt with a lot of patients. You just get a moment to breathe, and you let yourself kind of regroup and relax, and not let that anxiety build. And get frustrated for the next thing because you still got another second half of the day that's going to be equally as busy. So the first thing we're talking about in this one will be a little bit more complicated, but it's still something that can be done. Is mindful listening. Like set a piece of music that you've never heard and listen to it judgment-free, despite the genre or type or style. This is a really fun exercise for me because I like playing music, and I have things I like and things I don't like, and I got my judgment on. And it's to try something new where I just hear something that I've never heard, see what it's like, try to appreciate the instrumentation, the lyrics, whatever's happening, and experience it new, even if I have before, so that's not something I would like or don't typically listen to, and just experience something new. And what does it mean to me? Does it help challenge some of my previous perceptions? There's also things like mindful awareness. This is something I think I kind of taught here at our office, and I think a lot of people use it, is this ability to find something you do every day. If it's log into your phone, or everybody's got their daily quirks, get their cup of coffee, and it's at that moment when you get that physical cue, when you touch like your computer screen, touch the mug to pull things down, it's just to stop. At that moment, take 20, 30 seconds and just say, where am I at? What's going on? How am I feeling? And kind of stop yourself for a minute and just kind of do a check on yourself. How are you feeling? Good. You can notice things about yourself. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling real positive. And be able to say, okay, that's where I'm at. And maybe sometimes be able to intervene and say, hey, if I'm feeling anxious, what's going on? Why is that? What can I do differently? What will help with that? If maybe you're feeling anxious, maybe a cup of coffee won't help, and maybe I'll just boost it up a little bit more. But the idea is just stop and be kind of aware. Where am I at to help with the next step you're going to do? Mindful immersion. I think this is a fun one too. If people take it on, is to kind of do a daily routine or something you've done. Normally, I think on the slide talks about vacuuming. Something you just do that's just this routine. It's something you don't like doing, and try to revisit it in a different way, to appreciate it in a different way, to try it out in a different way, to kind of just be present. I can just, the example on the thing is to say, okay, done this, I'm doing that, say, what's going on here? Where do I go with it? Can I try it differently? Go this way, and just kind of re-explore and just look at something in a different perspective, kind of remove the hustle and bustle of it and just kind of re-experience something that you do daily that you might take for, either granted, or, it's a frustration and it causes a little bit of stress, to kind of refocus it to reduce the stress. I put in mindful appreciation, kind of just, this is an easy one, get a notepad while you're walking around on a day-to-day basis, identify 5 things that you just see and write them down, and then later on, at the end of the day, and you're reflecting, look at those 5 things and kind of explore them a little bit. Things you just take for granted, just stuff that you just kind of let go by, that you don't normally notice or just kind of just vaguely recall, and put it down. I put examples there, like, what are the, be aware of the electricity, that's going on. How it's like, I can use this, and this is what I have, and how it helps out with every day-to-day stuff. I take it for granted, just flip on, flip, and it has to be here. And most of us know if we ever lost power outage, how easily we can take for granted electricity, and try to grow a greater appreciation for the things that are just day-to-day in our lives. Just a couple more things, do some mindful loving kindness meditation just for a minute. Just repeat a mantra in your head of something like, may I be happy, may I be well, may I feel kindness and peace. Take some sort of thing where you just sit for a minute and just repeat a mantra in your head that's a positive kind of aspiration for yourself, and just kind of go with it. Calm down and say those words over and over again to kind of reinforce, kind of that self-wellness, self-appreciation that we need, and it doesn't take long, just a minute to just refocus, regroup. The last one I said, mindfully eat a raisin, although you can, it also says there you can eat a piece of chocolate, but just take something that you kind of just snack on, and just take a bite of it and sit with it and appreciate it, and just be with it and see what it's like and what is it telling you, and use all your senses to kind of taste it and smell it and touch it and see what it is like, and to kind of appreciate this thing that you sometimes you just pop in your mouth and just go on, and kind of reappreciate kind of the things that we have available to us, the food that we eat, and kind of get more connected with our surroundings and our world. I just put this slide up here. I always find this fun. I remember the first time I ever took a mindfulness class, this was the first slide I think that popped on the presentation, and it just made so much sense to me. It's almost I didn't need to hear the rest of it to understand what mindfulness meant. This idea that we sit here clustered with our head, and we can be in this beautiful scenery, in this, we're at a park or with our kids, and we're doing something that just and we're worried about everything else, the stuff that's happening right in front of us. We have all this beauty in front of us, and we're distracted. We're distracted by, I'm just guilty as anybody, distracted by phones, by other people, by what we have to do next, what just happened. Instead of just being in the moment and appreciating it. And I like this image, it talks about, it's got the little kids sitting there, and their brain just sees what's in front of them, and they're just happy to be there, and they're with it. In that moment, and I think about that, and I'm sure many of you have kids, that you can just see that times when it's like just to be present and excited, and it's like, I need to find a way to be able to get back to that. And so it takes work, because I think we have a lot of high demands, a lot of pressure on us. So this takes work to do it, but I think when we do it, we'll find that it actually creates more time for us, because we'll be less stressed, less anxious, less rushed, and be able to be more focused and do a better job of the things we want to, that we need to do, so then we can have more time for the things that we want to do. But I do have a couple discussion questions. I'll keep, you can kind of just look at real quick, like, what do you perceive to be the benefits of implementing mindfulness in the routine in your life? What do you think would be the challenges getting it started? And then, how would you overcome those challenges? But, really this discussion piece is just going to be more about questions you might have, or things you might discuss amongst each other as we kind of open up the microphones. So I'll be here to hopefully to moderate to some degree. So I know Kate and Caitlin will be there too to do that. So let me, if you do have questions, let me know. And I think I'm going to turn it back to them to figure out how this works so we get everybody else involved.
Right. Thank you so much, Nelson. Caitlin's going to change everybody to the panelist view so that everybody can start asking questions, and you can be seen on video if you'd like to. Again, you can take yourself off video if you wish. But Nelson, we had a couple questions pop up, and I thought maybe we'd get the conversation going, and as Caitlin gets everyone on screen and you have to ask your question directly, there was a few that came across during your presentation. When practicing cleansing, breathing, and starting a mindful routine, does it help to start with your eyes closed?
I think for me it does, because I can get easily visually distracted. I don't know that it's a necessity, but I think it's probably easier and better that way, just in the sense that I won't, if I'm trying to do this and do the breathing, and it might just be me because I may have a little bit of ADHD, but I can find myself, scooting my eyes and then losing concentration on what I'm supposed to be concentrating on, which is my breathing. So for me, when I was doing that, the breathing, I know I was closing my eyes, because for me, I can just kind of visualize and sense myself breathing, the air coming in, the air coming out, that kind of stuff. So to me, I think it's probably easier that way, so less distraction. But it's, to say there's a right or wrong way to do some sort of mindful exercise is kind of, there really isn't. But I think for many people, that would be more helpful, less distracting, which is part of the goal of this, is to remove distraction.
Very good. In your estimation, how long would it take to see benefits from the mindfulness practice?
Well, I think it's going to be the idea of what benefits are you looking for to measure. To me, like, I can do something that's immediate and quick and get myself refocused. That that little intervention may only last for 15, 20, 30 minutes. It helps me get through the next thing, and so it kind of has that intermediate kind of result. I think if you're looking for like more longer terms, when we're talking about like health benefits, like really seeing reduction in blood pressure kind of concerns, and like long-term anxiety or depression kind of things, I think we're probably going to take a longer period of time to kind of get into a practice. I mean, if anybody's worked in the mental health world, somebody that's first introduced to, like, I'm suffering with this, I'm dealing with this is what I'm doing, it takes a long time to understand the complications of the illness, what's going on with them, finding the right medications that might help with that so they can do these tools and exercises better. Some of that stuff takes a long term to see it. It just depends on what your goal is, I think. But you can see immediate. None of these quick exercise ones are about getting immediate response for kind of a short term, like, I'm going to get refocused and get myself in a better place. And if I find myself out of focus and 2 hours later, I can go back to it, take a minute, and redo it again. So to me, it can happen immediately. But I think the longer term stuff is going to be a little bit, and that's particularly what I'm talking about when we're working with somebody that may have a mental health or addiction issue or something more complicated.
Right. Okay, one more question before we take everybody off of mute. What are some specific strategies for physicians who feel overwhelmed with the workload that they currently have and get in the doing mindset to give them permission to start a mindfulness practice? Okay,
so I'm trying to get help me out with getting with a couple. There's a couple components to that question. There was
I think our physicians are feeling very overwhelmed with their workload. Mm-hmm. And because they are on the hamster wheel, so to speak, mm-hmm. They are not allowing themselves or giving them permission to start a mindfulness practice.
So, and I'm hearing you kind of, the question is like, that's an internal block, not an external block. Kind of what is blocking me to do it? Well, I've worked in the counseling field a long time, and I've worked with a lot of people that have, obviously I've worked with some people with significant pathologies, and they're always like, I can't do this, that's too much, I'll never be able to do this. And it's all those defense mechanisms that we've kind of developed in ourselves that kind of create those roadblocks, right? There's no doubt that a physician's work life is demanding. Trust me, I'm dealing with physicians on a day-to-day basis, and the demand is, more clients, as many people in, you get less time with them. You got to get all these documents and notes done. You got to, fight these electronic the electronic medical record system. It's complicated, and I don't see that decreasing anytime soon. I think that the demands are going to continue to be high. I think the challenge is it's internally, where I have to kind of sometimes say, I have all this stuff, but I'm going to give myself permission to do this. And sometimes I can't do that. And it's challenging as defendant. Why can't I do this?
Right.
What's going to happen? What's this 5 minutes going to take? If I take this time out, how is that going to distract or disrupt the rest of my day? It's really not. It's actually may help you actually calm down enough where you become more productive for the rest of your day. I think that's the biggest challenge with this. any change is complicated to do, and it seems overwhelming at first because we haven't done it and it's new. But once we implement it and start going and we see the benefits, then we start saying it's actually creating more time in my day. I'm actually feeling the benefit of it more frequently. And I, you know, just to share, you know, I am myself a person in recovery. And when you said, when I initially got proposed, you got to do all these meetings, you got to do all this stuff. No way, that can't be possible until you start doing it. And you find yourself, once I do it, I actually have more time in my life because I'm taking care of myself better. You know, I'm less stressed, I'm less overwhelmed, I'm more focused, I'm more capable of getting things done. I'm more capable of saying okay when things aren't getting done, you know, and allowing myself permission not to be perfect. So I think that's part of the challenge. It's probably challenging this internal, you know, pathological defenses, irrational beliefs, those kind of things that we have. And that, to me, is usually done through, you know, either talking with somebody, doing some peer interactions, or just taking the time. And, you know, for people when they get started on this kind of stuff, there's the apps where you can do like a meditative app and start just taking 1 minute and reading something to refocus your thinking on that. That doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't take a lot, but it's a starting point. I think the big thing here is to tell people it's not about getting it all right all at once. It's about, you know, just starting and getting at day one, doing something different, and then building on that for day 2 and day 3, day 4, and as it moves along. I don't know I hope that helps answer that question.
All right, we've got about 10 minutes. We're unmuting everybody, so if you would like to ask a question, feel free to ask it directly.
Good to see everybody.
Nelson, we do have a couple of other questions, so
okay.
Feel free to ask questions. Or yourself if you care to.
I got feedback. It sounds like one of my guitar solos.
Okay, well, let me get a little started here. Besides apps that help guide this process, what are your favorite recommendations for books regarding practicing mindfulness?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because there's a lot. So this may be because I'm probably not the best person to ask like the newest phase of the newest book that's available for mindfulness, because I have some meditative books that I've gotten through my recovery, like daily reflection stuff. So I pull those open and read those every day and just like look at that paragraph and have that. And so, but they're usually recovery based. But I know that if you go on Amazon and stuff like that, you can find some, you know, these they're mindfulness books that have like guided direction how to do that. I don't know a specifically good one. There is one that I was referenced not that long ago, but I can't. Without digging around and not being on the screen, I'm kind of trouble finding it. But you know, I think to me one of the things about meditation and mindfulness too is that I think we don't have it doesn't have to necessarily be a book. It can be anything I'm willing to just kind of refocus on and appreciate. It can be just waking up, looking outside my window, you know, the kitchen sink, and just pausing for a minute and just kind of looking at that and asking myself, you know, what's going on? What am I feeling? Where am I at? Appreciating what I see in front of me. So it doesn't always have to be about literature. It could be about other things. What I'll do is when we're done with this, I can send information about some of the books that I've been referenced or kind of given to me about some good starting points with that. I also like these tools that are available too. There's a lot of biofeedback tools for mindfulness. There's this thing called they actually put it on your head and then they walk you through meditation, and they'll kind of do your biometric feedback on how you're improving long term with your meditation. You wear it every day for the 10 minutes or whatever you're doing, and you do it, and it collects data, and you can actually see the reduction in, you know, heart rate, blood pressure, things, your brain wave. Somehow it measures brain waves. I'm not techie about what exactly, but it gives you data, biological data of like the improvement of how it's working for you, meditating and mindfulness.
So we could go and meet with everybody that we need to.
Questions from the group?
Do you care if you miss someone?
So one of the questions that was submitted to us, generally, what would be a good time, an amount of time to set aside in the morning to start a meditation practice?
What's a good time? Amount of time?
Around the amount of time. Does it take 2 minutes, or are we talking about it'd be helpful to start this process carving out about 30 minutes?
Well, one of the things I would say is that if you have if you have the time, I mean, I think this is hard because it's going to be a change, and you know that you're disciplined enough that you can give yourself the time. I would say try to give yourself at least a minimum 10 minutes to set aside to try some of this mindful practice. But if you think that that itself causes stress, just to think about the idea of how am I going to do that when I got to rush and get things ready, then I think it is about setting a more reasonable goal, like a minute or two, just trying something new and a different exercise, like, and see how that benefits you before you twist. I think some people, at least I know I am like this, need to have practice something for a little bit to see that there's a benefit in it, and then become that willingness to pull further to get more time. Like, I'm willing to take a little bit more time for this because I see what it's done just in the short term. But I think if you have the dedication and commitment, I would think I'd start off at minimum 10 minutes. Ideally, though, they suggest that it get up to at least 20 minutes of time for meditative practice.
We did have another question asking if we'd be able to share meditation resources with participants, which I think we'll send some things out.
Yeah.
There will also be a follow-up email that'll go out tomorrow, I believe. We have a Facebook link, so we've created a Facebook group. It's private for members only. Utilize this to kind of share discussions after today, share some of those resources, articles, and tips that you guys all can find and want to share with each other. So that'll be available as well.
You should do that before morning report every morning. It should take.
Yeah. I will gladly, when I get done with this, kind of put some resources and meditative stuff that I have available and some tools. I mean, the reality about a lot of this stuff is anybody can kind of find it. It's not, these aren't secret things. I think the goal is, the biggest challenge I've experienced with people when they're trying to implement kind of new wellness and new kind of techniques, especially something they're getting from kind of a therapeutic standpoint, is not the understanding of the tool, the technique, is more like I think the question was asked earlier, the resistance, that internal block of saying I can't find the time to do it. These aren't groundbreaking things. They've been around in practice for thousands of years in different kind of, either kind of religious practices or cultural practices. So it's not that we're reinventing the wheel. It's that for me as a therapist, my biggest challenge with people is getting through resistance to the change they want. I want this change, but I'm struggling to be willing to get to that change because of this, and this, and then to kind of focus, what are those actual roadblocks? How real are they? What part of it is perceived? What part of it's real? And then help them kind of get through the parts that, part of it's just getting through the mental hurdle, and then the other part, then there is sometimes some physical obstacles, but those can be worked around usually if I can get over the mental hurdle,
And it looks like we have about 3 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask Nelson before we close it down for today?
I mean, 5 minutes a group.
What about group mindfulness? I think you're breaking up now.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of like, well, one of the things we're going to talk about on the next presentation is it's going to be meditation. But I'm going to focus, instead of like, I'm looking at this mindfulness as meditation as kind of individual experiences to do mindfulness. Like we're talking about like these brief interventions where I go check in my computer, and I take a moment, I step back, or do a couple minutes of breathing, or even at my home started to implement a mindful practice where I'm taking like a 10 or 20 minute segment of my day and like really concentrating and focusing on that. What I think we'll focus about on the next one is kind of a little bit more meditation and some of the benefits of actually doing some kind of group meditation stuff. And we're going to do some time when we do the next one, actually have some passages to read and some images to look at, some things like that, that I hopefully what we'll do is we'll discuss that, as part of a wellness activity instead of kind of like the more of the hows and how do I do this and why do I do this, more of like, what am I experiencing in doing it? Because to me, that's one of the things about makes group like experiences and meditative stuff really beneficial, is you get to connect with others, which is obviously emotionally a healing thing. We're a social creature, not an isolated creature. And so that kind of stuff makes things better. I would tell you in treatment centers, they make the patients wake up every morning, do a group meditation, and in the evening do a group meditation. It's usually a really positive piece for them because it helps create connectiveness, within that process. So I think there's a lot of benefit to a group meditative practice, even if it's a couple peers, just taking a couple times and just to start the day, to get focused positively.
Okay, Nelson, we have one really quick question to ask you. Are there any benefits of using a gong or a Tibetan bowl?
I don't know. I hear a gong in the Tibetan what?
Bowl. Bowl.
Oh yes, okay. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not Buddhist myself, so I don't know many of the things. I just know that mindfulness comes from the kind of rooted from that philosophy, but I don't know the specifics. I do have a participant I work with that actually spent like a week at doing that kind of meditative stuff. I can ask him his experience about that and share back if that was positive for him.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, Nelson, for leading our session today and providing such valuable insight into the power of mindfulness.